Yesterday we worked with graphing standard equations and solving for y. Today what we're going to do is we're going to work on substituting in 0 to find our x and our y intercepts and being able to graph our equation in that format. So our first step is to find our x-intercept. We're going to substitute in a 0 wherever y is in our equation, and then we're going to solve for x. So here's our first step, is to go through and we're going to put wherever we have a y, we're going to put 0. So we have x plus 3 times 0 equals negative 3. So now if we go through and we simplify, we have x plus 3 times 0 is 0 equals negative 3. So then to get rid of our 0, we would subtract 0, subtract 0. So we just found out that our x-intercept equals negative 3. Okay, so now we're going to go through and do that same process for our y-intercept. So this time we're going to substitute in a 0 where we have x to find out what our y-intercept is. So our equation originally was x, so we're going to put a 0, plus 3 times y equals negative 3. So then we would go ahead and work to get it to say y equals. So our 0 would cancel out, that's gone. So now we'll go ahead and divide by 3, because subtracting 0 is the same as just getting rid of the 0. So divide by 3, divide by 3. We now have y equals 3 divided by 3 is 1, and it's a negative because there's one negative. So our x-intercept is negative 3. So on our x line, we're going to put a dot on negative 3. That's our x-intercept. And our y-intercept is negative 1. So y-intercept is negative 1. We'll then go ahead and put our line through this. So that's what our line would look like for our x plus 3y equals negative 3 by using our x and y intercept. So this is just another way of graphing our lines, is if you want to go through and find your x and y intercepts. Okay, so let's try another one. Okay, so our first step is we're going to go ahead and substitute in a 0 where we have either x or y. So I'll go ahead and substitute in my 0 where my y is. So we put a 0 in here. So we have x plus 3 times 0 is 0 equals 6. Well, this is now canceled out because we could say minus 0. It's still going to give us 6. So our x-intercept equals positive 6. So we're going to go ahead and put a dot on our positive 6 on our x-intercept. And now we're going to go through and do the same process with our y. Okay, so now we're going to substitute in a 0 where we have our x. So we'll put a 0 in here. So we've got 0 plus 3y equals 6. So this is gone now. So now we would, to get y by itself, divide by 3. Divide by 3. We just found out that our y-intercept is 6 divided by 3, or 2. So on our y line, we're going to put a dot where 2 is, and then we're going to draw our line on that. And there's our line for x plus 3y equals 6. And if you want to, you can still go through and actually solve for y and graph that equation. It's just that this is giving you just another method that you can use to solve. So it's something that I want you to practice. Okay, so let's try this one. So we're going to first substitute in for one of the, and it doesn't matter which one you do first. So if I wanted to substitute in a 0 where x is, we could solve for y first. So 0 plus y equals negative 2, so that's gone. So we just found out that y, our y-intercept is negative 2. Okay, so now if I do the same thing for our next one, I'm going to go ahead and substitute in a 0 where y is. Okay, so that's leaving us with x. So I found out that x equals x plus 0 is negative 2, so this is really gone, or we could say minus 0. It's still going to give us negative 2. So here we ended up with our x and y both being negative 2. So on our x line, we're going to go to -2, put our dot. And on our y line, we're going to go to -2 and put our dot. And here's what our line would then look like. Okay, so there's our line for x plus y equals -2. Okay, so I'm going to pull one out here and have you guys try it. Oops. Go ahead and try this one out. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and work on substituting in 0 for x, solving for y, and then substituting in a 0 for y and solving for x. Pause your video now and work your way through this problem. Okay, so if I start by solving for x and I substitute in a 0 where y is, I now have 2x equal, minus 0 is still going to be 2x, equals 8. So divide by 2, divide by 2. I just found out that my x-intercept equals 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same process for my y. Now this is where it's going to be a little bit tricky because you have to remember you cannot have a negative y. So if I substitute in a 0, where I have x, 2 times 0 is 0, minus y equals 8. So when I get rid of my 0, it's canceling out. I cannot leave this as negative y, so I have to go that next step of dividing by -1. Divide by -1, I find out that y equals 8 divided by -1 is -8. And then I would go through and actually graph these out. So my x-intercept was 4. And my y-intercept was -8, which my graph isn't big enough, so it'd be down here somewhere. And then I would draw my line through that. Oops. So that's what your equation would look like for that one, or your line. Okay, so this is just another form of a way that you can solve equations. It doesn't always work just in you have to have whole numbers in there. So when you have fractions involved with your x's, it works to find your y-intercept, but not your x-intercept when you're going through and substituting in. So this process does not work for 100% of your equations, but it does work for any of them where you're working with just whole numbers in there. So good luck with this one.